Good afternoon. Half a day. The Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing is now called to order. For the record, today is Wednesday, June 24th, and the time now is 3:10. Notice for this budget hearing was disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was issued on Monday, June 15th. Second notice was on Monday, June 22nd. The committee will hear and accept testimony on Bill 282-35 LS, the Fiscal Year 2021 Appropriation Act as requested by the Governor relative to the Department of Public Works Fiscal Year 2021 budget. Joining me today is on this budget hearing is the Oversight Chair of the Department of Public Works, Senator Jose Piro Terlay, Senator Regine Bisco-Lee, Senator Therese Terlay, Senator Kelly Mars Taitro, Senator Luis Muña, and Senator Tello Taidewi. General rules for the budget hearing. The conduct of this budget hearing shall be as follows. Those testifying on behalf of the department will be recognized by myself and invited to the panel, and they have been invited. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with written testimony for photocopying. Testimonies may be read, and lengthy testimony should be summarized. Testimony shall be confined to the substance. Mr. Arreola, we're talking about FY 2021 budget, and that's basically what we should stick to. We may discuss a little bit of 2020, but there shouldn't be a major discussion on that one. Individuals will be allowed to present oral testimony. Once you're done, you may be asked to remain in the room for question and for additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum may be restricted from providing oral testimony and or may be asked to leave or be escorted, removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and title for the record. At this time, I ask the panel members from the Department of Public Works to please rise and for our Sergeant at Arms to please swear them in. Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. I will ask now the representative of the Department of Public Works, please identify yourself and state your name and begin presenting your budget for Department of Public Works. Thank you.
Alpha Day, and thank you very much, Senator San Agustin and members of the committee. It's wonderful to be here again. My name is Vince Arreola. I am the director at the Department of Public Works. I am here with our Deputy Director, Jesse Garcia. He is out with our other members of our management team. With me specifically is Mrs. Arlene Pierce. She is our controller for DPW. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our proposed fiscal year 2021 budget. In the past few years, DPW has received two major funding sources that was approved for legislative appropriations for our general operational costs. The funding sources are the Territorial Educational Facilities Fund, the TEF, and the Guam Highway Fund. For FY 2021, DPW's operational costs related to the bus operations divisions will be fully funded by the TEF, whereas all other divisions, administrative services, highways, capital improvement projects, transportation maintenance, and building maintenance will be funded by the GHF. The total amount of $19.6 million for FY 2021 consists of $12.299 from the GHF and $7.359 million from the TFF. This budget request is the same amount as our fiscal year 2020 approved budget per Public Law 3536. As a result, there's been no increase or decrease in the budget level for FY 2021. The budget submitted was compiled prior to the commencement of the COVID-19 pandemic and its related activities. I will be discussing this more specifically later in my testimony. Moving forward, DPW is prepared to work within our given budget levels. We have provided a schedule of budgetary comparative tables, attachments, and our justifications to support our FY 2021 operational budget requests. Our statutory responsibilities, DPW is responsible for providing government-wide services such as daily school bus transportation service, for Department of Education and private school students, maintenance for school buses, various road construction, and earth-moving heavy equipment, and other light vehicles. We are also responsible for developing and maintaining Guam's roadways to include highway construction, flood mitigation, and road maintenance. We also manage the government of Guam's capital improvement projects, which also entails permitting and regulating Guam's private construction activities. And we also maintain GovGuam buildings, facilities, and equipment. DPW has 6 divisions. The Administrative Services Division provides administrative, financial, and budget management and personnel support to all programs under the purview of the department. The responsibilities include correspondence, developing policies, reports, fiscal accounting, budget finance, human resources, inventory, property management, storekeeping, grants management, legislation reviews, safety and security, and research programming, development, and planning. Our Building Maintenance Division provides maintenance services, repairs, construction services, and custodial work to upkeep public buildings and other government facilities as needed. With our bus operation, this division provides and ensures safe transportation services for public and private students to and from their respective schools throughout the school year. They provide safe busing services for school-related activities also, such as field trips and sporting events. They also provide emergency evacuations and other busing services as authorized by the Governor of Guam and/or the Director. With our Capital Improvement CIP Projects Division, this division provides professional and technical services for the government's infrastructure projects and technical support to the community. They review and assess building plans, perform construction estimates, and evaluate the conditions of current government buildings for either renovations and/or expansion. Our Highways Division, they provide overall management and administration of the Guam Highway and Village Streets program, including planning, designing, and construction of all roadways and capital improvement projects. In addition, they maintain, repair, and restore Guam's highway system, which includes all primary, secondary, collective roads, village streets, steel and concrete bridges, flood control systems, ponding basins, guardrail maintenance, traffic directional signs, street names, speed limits, and as you can see, the list goes on. Our Transportation Maintenance Division handles the maintenance and repair of all the department's vehicles, buses, heavy equipment, and operational equipment. This division also serves as the official motor pool custodian and fleet inventory manager for all GovGuam line agencies. Under our general operational costs, this is just a summary of the types of mandates and responsibilities that the department oversees. I have mentioned this list before, and as I will mention later, it has expanded to include a number of our COVID-19 related work tasks. Salaries are our largest cost category, which is about 73% of our total operational costs. Other costs include supplies, contractual, fuel, utilities, and capital outlay. Below is an overall summary for budgetary comparative analysis between FY 2021 and FY 2020. As you can see under Table 1, we have submitted our request for $14.4 million under personnel, 4.1 for operations, 737 for utilities, and 353,000 for capital outlay. Again, if you see the totals, they both equal what we received for last year's fiscal year. I've also included a table that gives a breakdown by the fund and by divisions. Our administration division, the building maintenance, transportation maintenance, highways, CIP, and bus operations. Bus operations, again, you'll see way at the bottom, that's under the Territorial Educational Facilities Fund, and that is being requested $7.359 million for FY 2021. Our operational needs, the FY 2021 budget is essentially status quo, sufficient to meet our current operations based on our department's mandates. Most of DPW's operational costs are personnel costs, including overtime for emergency first responders, transportation and highway maintenance workers, as well as heavy equipment mechanics. It appears, though, that there may be reductions in the government-wide budgets because of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic has had on our economy and government resources. We will work to utilize all funding sources available to the agency for FY 2021, just as we are currently doing now. Other operational costs include the need to purchase supplies and equipment, maintenance of roads and pothole repairs, replacement of vehicle parts, tires, batteries, fuel, oil for heavy and light vehicles, fuel for our school buses, repairs and renovations of DPW and government buildings. Our agency is also mandated to adhere to Public Law 2845, the Every Child is Entitled to an Adequate Education Act. This requires our bus operations to provide additional services to our existing operations. Also included in our operational costs are capital outlay purchases for new buses. In terms of our manpower needs, the staffing pattern for FY 2021 includes funded vacancies. There is always a need to hire additional personnel such as bus drivers, engineers, construction inspectors, mechanics, heavy equipment operators, administrative staff, supervisors, guards, plumbers, and refrigeration mechanics. At the time of our budget submittal, the department was showing a vacancy of 22 positions. At this point, 19 positions are in the recruitment hiring process. It is my intent as director, as I mentioned last year, to keep this department fully staffed to the greatest extent possible, especially in the areas of bus drivers, highway workers, mechanics, and building maintenance personnel. For our road repair projects, DPW is requesting $2.78 million for the FY 2021 Village Streets projects. This is the same amount as FY 2020. This highly successful program involves a partnership between the department and a private contractor selected through the government bidding and procurement process. In the past fiscal years, DPW was given an additional appropriation for village street road resurfacing and repair projects. In FY 2020, we received $3.1 million. In FY 2019, DPW received 2.9, and in FY 18, DPW received 3.8 million, of which 1.8 from local funds and 2 million was from compact impact funding. I am pleased to report that this year we have paved 11 streets so far, counting 11,631 linear feet at a cost of almost $1.7 million. We still have pending a number of streets in numerous villages that are slated for paving. We will continue to work diligently to ensure they are completed in a timely manner. With our bus fleet, DPW has purchased 55 new buses from the U.S. Department of Interior federal grant funding during FY 2013 and 2016, and 7 buses from local funds per Public Law 33-149. During FY 2019, DPW acquired another 5 more buses funded by the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, DERA, from the US EPA. Our total bus fleet as of today is 160. For 2020, we were awarded a new DERA grant to purchase 4 buses, and for 2021, we are anticipating another DERA grant opportunity to purchase 4 units and additional buses from local funds for FY 2020 and 2021. Let me just add, we were in the process of doing the procurement in the month of February, and as we all know, the pandemic hit, and basically we had to restructure our procurement. The current procurement bid for buses expired, and so we've got to go out for bid again. But we will make every effort to ensure that we continue to purchase buses and augment our fleet. I wanted to talk a little bit about our building permits section. This is non-appropriated funds. Our building permits and inspections section of the Capital Improvements Projects Division is responsible for the enforcement of building codes and the review and processing of building permit applications for all public and private construction. Revenues are derived from 100% inspection and plan checking fees and 25% from the issuance of building permits. The other 50% of building fees are earmarked to Guam Preservation Trust and 25% to the public library. Earlier this year, we increased the service levels of our permit center to include operating on a full-time basis. Today, these are some of the services we provide from the following agencies. Of course, DPW, we take care of the building permit applications, inspection and occupancy permits. At Guam EPA, they take care of environmental clearances. Guam Fire Department handles fire code compliance and inspections. Department of Land Management handles maps, boundaries, and easements. Public Health Social Services, they take care of sanitary permits at the center. And with the Department of Revenue and Taxation, they opened up 3 service windows, one for collections, real property issues, and business license services. And of course, we have the Treasurer of Guam, where individuals are allowed to make payments to the government of Guam. Another non-appropriated division here is our federal grants. DPW receives several federal grants assistance funding. The major grant funding is from the Federal Highways Administration. FHWA funding for FY 2021 for the construction of primary routed roads and bridges. We project about $14.6 million will be received for 2021. Roadway projects we anticipate being funded through this grant include Route 14, that's the Chalon San Antonio, Route 14B, EPOW Road, the completion of Route 3, Route 1 Marine Drive repaving, select bridges, upgrading of traffic signals, road striping, and guardrail repair. Another DPW grant funding source is from the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration. We project $1.4 million will be received for FY 2021. This grant is used to fund and operate our Office of Highway Safety. This section provides educational outreach on traffic safety for impaired driving, occupant protection, speeding, distracted driving, and pedestrian safety. They also work very closely with the Guam Police Department, Guam Airport Police, and Port Authority Police on DUI checkpoints and the Click It or Ticket program. Another federal grant award anticipated for FY 2021 is the U.S. EPA State Clean Diesel Grant Program, DARA, as I mentioned earlier. This grant program will assist DPW in purchasing new school buses to comply with U.S. EPA's fuel emission standards. Lastly, I'd like to talk about our COVID-19 emergency response, basically since the beginning of March. In FY 2020, DPW received a portion of federal grants funding from the Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act, the CARES Act. DPW's share amounts to over $847,000 and is available until December 20th of this year. CARES funds are 100% federally funded and are solely for DPW's emergency response to COVID-19 pandemic emergency operations. These costs are not accounted for in our local budget as of March 2020. Examples of some of the major DPW COVID-19 task assignments include the site preparations related to the skilled nursing facility and other locations used for COVID-19 activities, such as the food distribution. Transporting airline passengers and their baggage to and from the airport to designated hotel sites is another site preparation. Sanitizing all buses and fleet equipment and offices is also included as part of our COVID-19 activities. Dispatching of equipment and materials, supplies, food, fuel delivery to island-wide to various locations and other logistical responses as required by the Emergency Operations Center located at Guam Homeland Security. The financial cost impact from COVID-19 responses are being thoroughly vetted, reviewed, and compiled since the start of this pandemic. DPW continues to work on COVID-19 emergency responses up through this present day. We are anticipating that response activities will continue well into FY 2021. Note that DPW is also working with the U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to seek additional reimbursements on COVID-19 emergency operations that are not covered by the CARES grant. We will continue to work closely with DOA and BBMR for further guidance. Clearly, Senators, this pandemic has shifted DPW operations and funding away from our normal business routine. Many of our maintenance duties have been held back, and only recently have we started to catch up. I must say we have a great group of dedicated and committed employees who have truly risen to the occasion in addressing many of the new duties and responsibilities we now carry. It appears many of these new tasks will continue throughout the upcoming fiscal year. As always, we stand ready to assist this government and our island in moving forward in fulfilling our statutory mandates and other important duties as needed. Senators, on behalf of the fine women and men working at the Department of Public Works, I am very pleased to present our FY 2021 budget for your review and approval. My staff and I would be most happy to discuss our proposal and to answer any questions you may have. Jesus Masi, respectfully. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Arreola. I have a few questions here. You mentioned your positions you have, but on the bus transportation, in compliance with the social distancing for the next school year, how are you anticipating to accommodate that with all the distancing, social distancing required?
That's a very good question, Senator. You know, our bus superintendent has been in contact with the Department of Education officials. We don't have a firm word yet. We don't have firm word on how they plan to operate the school system. There is talk of several sessions, double sessions throughout the day, if not more than double sessions. The other issue that we have is with our social distancing. You know, typically a 60-passenger bus with social distancing measures in place, we are unable to carry 60 passengers. If you take into account the spread of 6 feet within a bus, we're probably at the most able to carry 10 to 12 students. I think we're going to have to rely on the Department of Public Health and Social Services and CDC to see what any new guidelines, if any, are available for school bus transportation, and see if that could be either augmented by carrying more students. Clearly, if we're stuck with 10 students, 12 students per bus, we're going to have an issue if we stay with our standard school program and school timing. We are hoping that they do go into double sessions, if not triple sessions, and that way we spread out the school students throughout the day. But we don't have a final word from DOE. We are hopeful that we get that word immediately so that we can plan within ourselves as well to make sure we're able to handle the school load. But we are in close contact with them. We just haven't heard a final position on what the school times and hours are going to be.
All right. You have an on-base client procurement software. Is this software linked to the GovGuam procurement, and would it ease the delay of processing purchase orders?
Repeat that again, Senator?
You have an on-base client procurement software.
Right. Yes, sir.
What good is it? I mean, what does it do?
What we have received from GSA is they've given us authority up to a $10,000 limit to basically do most, if not all, the work for procurement, basically for goods and services. We're able to go out there and get the 3 quotes, compile them, make sure they meet all the specs, that the goods and items that we're looking to procure are correctly and technically sufficient and correct. And once that's done, then the requisitions are sent down to GSA. It still requires the signature and review of the Chief Procurement Officer. We're running the same system with them, but I think the bottom line is we're still experiencing some delays in getting our goods and services. As you know, DPW is a highly intensive logistics, transportation, mechanical, construction agency. We're not so much administrative in nature. And so if I were to just give you an example, if, you know, not to put any of the other administrative agencies down, but if an agency out there needs a desk or a chair breaks or a filing cabinet, you know, to me that's not critical. You can wait a couple weeks or a couple months for a desk or a couple chairs or filing cabinets. If we have a bus breakdown, or if we have a tractor mower breakdown, or we have a backhoe breakdown, the time that it takes to get that repair just basically doubles, if not triples, our workload, because the work is still there. Grass keeps growing, the mud keeps forming, landslides keep occurring. potholes keep getting bigger and bigger. So the longer the time a heavy equipment stays down, work just keeps piling up. You know, the ideal, I'll say it now, we're kind of working toward that end. The ideal is that we at Public Works receive our own procurement authority for goods and services for all amounts, under 10,000, over 10,000. We already have full procurement authority for construction, and that is really helping us move because everything's done internally. We get the estimates, we review the plans, the construction plans, we review the contractors' estimates, and so on and so forth. So everything is done in-house, and we're able to really move on that. And you could see what's happening with the some of the Department of Interior money that's already been let out. We let out a number of contracts for contractors to start repairing restrooms, basketball facilities, community centers, all throughout the island.
Are you referring, is that referring to the DOI, the almost $6 million?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Oh, good. You guys, okay, I don't have to ask Parks and Rec then.
We administrate that.
Good, thank you. Does your department have any outstanding retro employment salary payment due as a result of the Competitive Wage Act of 2014 or any retro pay that's due? The reason why I ask that because in Public Law 3635, which is the current budget, it authorized you to address such obligation. I'm just very curious because I don't remember receiving any documents saying it's you need more money versus what the budget you have, and as long as you don't let us know, we don't know how we can be able to respond. And for 2020, we're hoping that whatever little money you have, you can at least make the obligation and settle that, and then please advise us what else is owed, so we can make your employees more whole. And you know, when employees are whole, they're more
absolutely
willing to work and continue to work.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Senator. Yes, we do have Competitive Wage Act appeals, I think to the tune of about 250,000. And we do have authority. We are just dotting our I's and crossing our T's to make sure that we're able to pay that within this fiscal year. We do have some other outstanding unfunded obligations. I think one that came to the forefront about a year ago was on this one particular case. We just wrote to the Attorney General to give us a final number for the employee as well as attorney fees. That's going to be a pretty big case. That's at about the 700,000 level, because that goes way back to maybe 2011.
Yes, that was all over the newspaper. I understand.
Right.
Yes.
And then aside from that, there are other unfunded salary obligations that we have to pay. I think to the tune of maybe about 400,000, if not 500,000. That I'm going to have to work with the committee to either receive additional funding or get authority to spend it somewhere within the government or within DPW. That's a pretty hefty amount also.
Okay, if we can get that information, then we can address it in the committee and we'll figure out how to give you the authority or even identify the source of funding.
Okay.
So that you can settle that. The last thing I have is, you know, we had Bill 354 today, and if you can submit testimony, it has to do with hiring retired engineers. If you can just submit testimony, I'd really appreciate it. And with that, Senator Pino Chalai, the Oversight Chair, do you have any questions, Mr. Arreola, sir?
Testimony 354.
Yeah.
Vince Mamolika.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Malik Todo.
Si Jesus masilay Vince na imalik chitsomo. Do tungwa na jangin taatan na idinaklun responsibilidad. It lies on DPW. And, you know, I give you a lot of credit because I know that you're probably overwhelmed with a lot of backlog and in as far as road repairs. And let me just say this because, you know, I also chair the Mayor's Council. And every now and then, the mayor will call me up and say, hey, Lana Pidunay ko sinila yung check public works and nuti matsutsugi salan. Anyway, let me just pinpoint some of the roads that they addressed to me. One is the Chalan Agun Street in Maningon. It was scheduled to be repaved and resurfaced. And according to the village report, DPW has removed it from the list of repairs. That is one.
Okay.
And also, like Vince, Duane Street, Cook Street, Perry Street, North Avenue Street. No, in Agate. This is in Agate. I don't wish it's anyway, Duane Street, Cook Street, Perry Street, North Avenue Street in Agate. Those streets were also scheduled for repave and repair. It was removed on the list. Ichalansandia and Tonusen San Nicolas Street in Inarahan. That's a couple of streets there also that were placed on the repair list and removed. And also Francisco Perry Street in Talafofo is another street that was scheduled for repair. They were supposed to be repaved and resurfaced this year, but they were removed from the road repair list. And I just wanted to, so I can get back to the mayors and say, this is the problem.
Yep.
So just give me the
Yeah.
reasoning.
Basically, Mr. Chairman, they weren't removed totally from the list. As I mentioned before, all those roads that get on the village street paving, repaving list, there are all kinds of factors that are taken into account before we pave them. It includes ownership of the road, easements, rights of way, condition of the road, how much traffic goes through the road. And so what we did is we had to move some of the streets to a second tier. They're still on the list. We just had to move them down to the second tier. One of the major roads that we're doing right now, and we considered it a village street, was the road up leading up to Malolo. We started that since last week. That's going to be a 2-week period. There's some major serious road repair that needs to get done. That is an accident waiting to happen, and so we looked at that with our engineers and with our highway maintenance individuals, and we made the decision to hit that now. Actually, we tried to have that paved using our FHWA funds, but that has a lot of easement and rights-of-way issues. And drainage issues and environmental issues as well. It would have taken 2 years just to probably get to the design phase. And in the meantime, the road degradation continues to get worse and worse. And so we made the decision, I made the decision along with our individuals, our professionals, to hit that road like 2 weeks ago. And so it's in the paving schedule right now. Those roads that you mentioned, they're all familiar with me. We just moved them to the next
Pues
year.
kaya gilista, no?
Yes, sir, they are.
Pues biagang gilunis na besangani na po matutuni salang gilunis.
Yes, they are.
Ay, mosita na od. Vince, I know that whenever you address something to us, I know that
It'll get
even
done,
before
Senator.
you address the repairs, you're starting to do the repairs. So I know that's how you work. So, Jesus Masi.
Yeah, thank you.
Nasigura na mahuli ka to di corazon, Vince.
We're good.
So tunga na mega malinikulumun is tinatso. Public Works is really the responsibility is bigger than any other agency that we have in Government of Guam. So I give you a lot of credit for taking the challenge. So tunga na you're going to continue working so hard to make sure that your obligation is done right. Thank you, Vince.
Thank you.
Jesus Marcy.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Chalai. Senator Lee, do you have any questions? And you'll be followed by Senator Tello.
Sidosmasi, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much, Director Ariola, for being here and for your team that's here and out in the hallway. Thank you very much for your update and for all of DPW's work. I know I sent you a message in March late at night, just kudos to your team for the night road work on Route 1. I was looking through my messages and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, they were working on that. So I really appreciate you taking the opportunity while there were not very many drivers on the road, especially during the pandemic, to maximize the efficiency of the department and work on those things. I think that's what the public really wants, for us to be more efficient as a government. And then also thanks in advance to your attention to the streets that were listed by the oversight chair that mayors brought to our attention. There is a $10,000 increase being proposed toward your MOA for attorney services. Can you just detail for the committee what accounts for this increase, and is it due to an anticipated increase in legal work, or what type of legal services is the department paying for?
Yes, Senator, thank you very much. Very good question. I'm not sure if I informed the legislature or the committee. We are in the process of, as you know, DPW has, since I believe 2009, has, under our FHWA grant program, we've had to be under watch, so to speak, with our consultants to assist in the administration of the grant. And this has been for well over 9-10 years. It's a huge chunk of money that's taken from our grant for our consultants, although I have to admit they do a fantastic job. But from the very beginning, the reason those consultants were brought on board by the feds and by the government of Guam at that time is that Public Works did not have the individuals or the capacity or the resources to actually administrate, handle, and coordinate the federal grant program for paving and construction of roads, bridges, and the like. The onus was always on the government of Guam, always on DPW, to take over that program 100%. We are smack dab in the middle of that process right now. Earlier this year, we signed a charter with FHWA that commits to transitioning over the next 18 months, so that by July of next year, July of 2021, we would have transitioned from the consultant level to administrating the program to 100% administration of the program at DPW.
That's exciting.
Very exciting. That's like number one on our plate. It really is. It's huge. So with that charter, with that transition, with all of the documents going back and forth, I have to admit the work of our legal counsel, Tom Keeler, Attorney Tom Keeler from the AG's office, his work has, and I'll be honest, 10,000 is we're getting away with a pretty good deal, because his work has increased easily 50%. He's a great individual to work with. He's thorough. It's well worth the money, and it's really going to be his work output that's increased, and so that's the reason for that.
Thank you very much. I also want to commend you for cutting expenses and including an $18,000 decrease in contractual services under your CIP program. Can you again detail which services you've downgraded or eliminated in your plans to kind of handle this spending cut?
If I remember correctly, and again, part of our transition is we're consolidating offices. We're bringing people together at DPW. Remember, there used to be 1,100 employees. We're down to 260. And so those 260 were all over the place because there was room. And so what we're doing is we're consolidating people. So I saw that message. It's under contractual, correct?
Yes.
I have to imagine that's for copier services. And I think it's just a matter of the consolidation, but we'll be okay with it.
Okay, great. There is a request in your submitted budget to invest some $220,000 for vehicles, computer systems, and networks in your CIP program. So can you explain how these purchases will improve your delivery of services?
Thank you, Senator. And it's not just within the CIP program, but within CIP, within building permits, even within FHWA. And again, going back to COVID, this really put a damper. It really set us back because we just started running, you know, November, December, January, and then COVID just put a stop to everything. We are still kind of in the Stone Age when we're reviewing plans and construction activities at DPW. Our systems are not up to date with the private construction companies. Our systems and computers don't have the latest software. We don't have CAD drawing capabilities. We don't have the right printers. You probably won't believe me, but we're still using Mylars over in the inspection service post. So we're really trying to upgrade our entire network. It's also part of our transition. So, you know, and when you have that, we're able to review, assess, analyze, and hopefully approve all these plans that come in. And I think in this day and age, with COVID coming up, I think gone are the days where you have face-to-face meetings. If you don't have it readily available on your hard drive or certain software, you're just not going to get things done. And we just don't have time for stuff like that. And so I think it's going to be incumbent on this entire government to wake up and shake up and improve ourselves, especially in terms of IT. I know my colleague over at OTEC, he's got a huge job ahead of him, but you know, we're here to assist, and nobody wants to work with the systems that we have right now.
Thank you very much. I also want to thank you for your update regarding bus operations and working with GDOE in terms of a plan for getting our students back to school. And so we're looking forward to that update once it's available. And then also just to tag on to what the chairman had asked about testimony for Bill 354.
Yes, ma'am.
That bill was heard earlier today. So again, I just want to thank you for your support. And if there's any other questions, I'll reach out to you or to the chair. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Senator Tello, do you have any questions, ma'am?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you so much for the opportunity. And good afternoon, Vince, as well as...
Good afternoon, Senator.
This
Arlene? Arlene Pierce?
Arlene, right? Okay. Thank you so much for being here. And if there's anybody else out in the lobby, I'd like to thank DPW for all their hard work, especially during this crisis. Vince, I've been an advocate from day one when it comes to road repairs. You know that. I've come to your office many times and talked to you about it and advocated on the floor to ensure that you had whatever funding you need to get the job done with these road repairs. It's about the safety of our community. And on page 4 of your presentation, or your verbal presentation that you wrote, it said that $1.7 million were used, right, for the road repairs, and $1.7 million out of the $2.780703 was used so far for road repairs. Now, we're coming close to the fourth quarter ending here, and it took you this long to use the 1.7. Will you be able to utilize the full amount by the end of the fiscal year?
Probably not, but my understanding is that appropriation, it does not end at the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I've been advised that, we do roll it over. We did have, and the reason for that, the delay, not to push against the contractor, but on Guam today, we have one road paver, and that's Hawaiian Rock.
I'm sorry, say that again. You have what?
We only have one company that paves roads. That would be Hawaiian Rock. So we did have issues with the bid that went out. We had some negotiations. We had to talk about the streets that we put on, some of the streets we took off, and so it was a back and forth thing. But no, I have to admit we do work very well with them, and because they're the only contractor in town, they have a lot of projects on base as well. So it's like a back and forth thing. As soon as they're finished with the base project, they'll call us. Okay, Vince, we're ready to go here. We're ready to go here. We're ready to go there, so on and so forth. But they've been able to accommodate us pretty decently. And like I said, we have an excellent working relationship with them. The fact that we prep the roads and they pave it, it works wonderful.
So Vince, I know that we could stretch our government funds further if we did the work ourselves from DPW. And I think that's what you're doing currently right now. And then what Hawaiian Rock does, it comes with something that you guys can't do at DPW, right?
Right.
And that's how it's rolling. Now, is there any possibility with additional funding given to DPW that you can handle the whole entire project without being held hostage to Hawaiian Rock?
Yeah, that would require major machinery, a batch plant to mix the asphalt, or we could purchase it from them, depending. I would imagine we should be able to purchase it from them.
Exactly.
But it would certainly require a milling machine, a road paver. We've got graders. We have compactors and rollers. So, and then of course additional personnel. Have we looked at that? Like I said, I would prefer to do everything in-house for the most
Right.
part, especially village streets. They're so easy. They really are.
Exactly.
You go in, you mill the 2 lanes. We did a couple streets here in 3 days.
Yeah.
And it was well over half a mile. That's excellent.
I know, and it stretches the amount of money that you're using when you're doing
Sure.
the job yourself. So Vince, I really highly recommend, and I'm sure my colleagues here feel the same way, if we can take that dollar and stretch it,
Okay.
a lot further. And sometimes it takes a little bit more money in order for the bigger picture in the long run, costs us less money for the government of Guam. But really, technically, cost is really not the issue. It's the safety of our people and the roads. It's having them to go into a car repair shop, having to get additional tires, additional brake pads, and that's a big cost for the people of Guam. And we really, Vince, that's the bulk of DPW, and to get our roads safe. So we really need that. The other question I had too is, with that portion of money too, is there any possibility that DPW can consider the possibility of leveraging a portion of that balance for the annual road repair for debt service, for a loan or a bond that could fund additional village repairs? Have you thought about doing that?
There was talk using some of our federal funds for Garvey bonds for certain projects. I'd be real cautious now, simply because our revenues they basically tanked. So we have to give it some time, I believe. I'm not DBMR or DOA, but I know how the revenues work. We're going to have to give it some time until hopefully it recovers and gets to a point where the revenues are at a decent stage to handle what we need. I get what you mean, so that we can do the projects now.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and then kind of amortize it later on, as opposed to doing it later.
Yeah.
I can certainly take that into account.
Please? Yeah, I appreciate that.
We are looking. The governor has tasked every single agency and agency head to look for every single type of federal grant or any form of grant program that will benefit the island, and we are doing that as well.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Vince. Also, have you taken, what action, if any, have you taken against people responsible for damaging guardrails and ensuring that the safety and are to repair them or replace them is done in a timely manner?
Oh, yes, yeah. We get the police reports. Whenever there's an accident on the roadway, even if it's just cracked glass on the road, or they hit a guardrail, or we get the police reports, and we write directly to the owner and the insurance company, claiming a certain
right
amount
away.
for repairs.
Okay.
And it's going fairly well. I think
Good.
we could probably tune it up a little bit better, because I'm sure we're missing some.
Okay.
But just today on my way down here, somebody completely missed the tri-intersection and went into Naval Station, the old Naval Station.
Wow.
I don't know how, but yeah, he'll be getting a bill for some damage. But yes, we do, Senator.
Okay.
We send a bill to the owner and the insurance company.
And my last question for you, Vince, is that based on the tracking of the highway fund, the Guam Highway Fund right now, It's tracking below. In fact, there's a loss of, well, according to them, they're saying that we are $2,460,722 short. And I know that you receive a lot of your funding from the Guam Highway Fund,
Right.
so, I know you're probably aware of it.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Okay,
We
so
work
have
very
you-
closely with BBMR,
Yeah,
and well, that's their job.
right?
If they don't release the funds, we're unable to spend it, and so
Exactly.
very closely working with them.
And this is just for 2020,
Right.
right? And we don't know how it's going to roll in 2021. So are you prepared, Vince, to find those cuts that may be needed?
I think some of probably the only good thing that came out of the COVID 90-day hiatus for the government is we were able to save some money ourselves. So we know the revenues are down, but the revenues are down, so's our spending. So we'll take that into account, and
Okay.
we've done projections to see where we are at the end of the year. It's going to be close because at the same time we've spent quite a bit of money on personnel, but we hope to make that up from as I mentioned earlier, from the CARES Act as well as from some FEMA funds.
Okay. And I'm sorry, it was my last question, but Vince, I was so hoping that you would add more money to the Village Street Road and resurfacing repair. You still have the same amount as you did last year. So if you want to provide a supplemental budget, then I suggest you put some more money into that
Will do,
area,
Senator.
okay? If
Yes,
you want to
will
do
do.
so. I appreciate that. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
thank
And
you.
for the hard work your agency is doing, I greatly appreciate
Yeah,
it.
much
Thank you.
appreciated. Thank you
Okay.
very much, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Luis Munoz, do you have any questions, ma'am?
Sure, Mr. Chair, I'll make it really quick. It's the end of the day. I know that feeling.
Buenas.
So just to reiterate some of the things that were discussed a little bit earlier, I just wanted to say, be careful how you say how well Attorney Peter did for you, because he may send you another billing. Mr. Chair talked about the bus ops, because there hasn't been a plan yet for DOE, right, and what's going to happen with school. But if they go into double session, will it require more personnel for double session?
I think the thought process is they have session in the morning, then they have session in the afternoon. A lot of it depends, if they get a full slew of students going back to the classroom, we might have issues with it because, again, our bus capacity goes from like 60, say 40, 50, 60, down to like 10 or 12. That's going to be really difficult. I understand also that they're looking at doing holding some classes at home and online, so that might help us out a bit. The best I could say is to hear from DOE and get us their plan, so that we can handle it accordingly. Worst comes to worst, there's GRTA buses that we can use. There's some private sector buses that we can use, depending if they're being used or not. If the tourism comes back later than school starts, we can use that. So we're looking at any and every opportunity for additional transportation services.
But as far as the bus operators, though, I mean, they would have to service both sessions, though, from the early morning all the way up until the second session is over. So I'm not sure if that would also require,
I think operator-wise, I think we're going to be okay.
Okay.
We like I mentioned, we just had a meeting this morning, and I was told by the superintendent the operators on the operator side will still be okay. The problem is going to be is if this COVID-19 continues, because as you know, we're still shuttling passengers to and from the airport to hotels or quarantine sites, and so if that group of buses, I think we're at I think the number is 12 buses that are totally dedicated to the airport. If we take 12 out of the equation, I've got to be able to find 12, if not more buses.
More buses.
To make up for that.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm sure that you guys will devise a plan that will help the students.
Yes, ma'am.
So do you also have, DPW inspects rental units when a business license is issued for apartment complexes, is this true?
I'm sorry?
Do you inspect rental units, right? DPW does this, this is what?
Rental units?
Yeah, rental units?
Yes.
For like, if they get a business license for like apartment complexes?
Right,
and-
yes.
Okay, so do you have enough personnel for inspections of apartment complexes?
Inspectors, I can tell you right now, we're a bit short with inspectors.
Okay.
We had 2 leave earlier this year, and so we've only replaced the 2 positions with 1. You know, as per the bill that was heard this morning, I'll be honest, I haven't heard of any former employees that want to return, but you know, we can certainly take a look at that because the learning curve is flat.
So this is probably where the Bill 254 will really come in handy, is to assist
Right.
with some of the inspections, like for apartment complexes, because I would imagine that it would need to be inspected on a regular basis
Yes.
for, you know, for a lot of things, like, you know, parking lot and fixtures and everything that really...
Occupancy, right?
Yeah, for safety purposes, walkways, stairwells, things like that. So I guess that was where I was alluding to, that it would be very helpful with your testimony for Bill 354 that would help assist in some of the shortfalls as far as inspectors are concerned for these particular
Okay.
areas. So thank you again, Director, and
Thank you very much, Senator.
Arlene, right? Arlene, thank you,
Yeah.
and for DPW for all of the work that you guys are doing.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Munoz. Senator Kelly Marsh, do you have any question, ma'am?
Okay. So just Masi for being here and closing out the day with us. And of course, for all the hard work that you've been doing before, but also during the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's helped us understand a little bit of your additional duties. I know that you had referred to some of it in your material, but understanding that you're also part of the busing that goes between the airport and the hotels, that helps us understand some of those additional responsibilities. So with that, I do also want to comment. I was going to ask about the repaving, which you and I have spoken of before in the Malolo and Inarahan area, right? So I'm sure the residents of Inarahan are extremely pleased that this is going on. This seemed to be one of their main concerns when I was speaking with them. So it's very good to hear that that's going forward. I know that you said that there are a whole lot of issues that could hold it up, but I'm glad you're
Right.
finding a way to move forward with that. So with some of the questions, I just wanted to get some base understandings. So part of what you do is maintaining government facilities. With the division that takes care of that, how many employees do you have that work on the maintenance of government facilities?
Actually, our building maintenance division is the smallest division at DPW. There's basically 9, I believe, 9 positions. And basically each one there has their specialty. But what we do, you know, we're a great team there. If we need additional help, which is what we're doing in COVID-19 right now, we're pulling some bus drivers. We're pulling some highway maintenance workers, depending on what type of job duty is needed. And they're assisting us as well. The major construction that we did over the last 60 days was, I'm sure you all know it, it's all the plexiglass that we did at just about every department, every agency that had customer services available. So as a matter of fact, we're still doing it because as I understand, the island just keeps running out of plexiglass. And so I think we still have like 3 more departments to do. So, you know, it's, and who knows, it might get worse, it might get less, but yeah, we do have 8 or 9 individuals. And they're very talented, wonderful workers.
Excellent. Well, that's good to hear. And it's also good to hear that there's that flexibility that as needs arise, there can be a little bit of movement within your different sections. So in the highway division, it's charged with maintaining both primary and secondary roads. Are the roadway shoulders maintained on the non-primary roads? Is that something that's shared between DPW and the mayors, or how does that responsibility
Yeah.
get split up?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. Yeah, especially within the confines of the main village, we work really closely with the mayors. You know, they've got a healthy budget as well for road repair, road maintenance, and things of that sort. Usually, we'll assist them if it's something a little bit more heavy. Say if they haven't done a road in quite a while and it's gotten out of control, and they need maybe some backhoe assistance or excavator assistance, we'll come in with that, or with side cutters and things like that. We'll help them out. So it's really a partnership again with the mayors. On a scale of 1 to 10, they probably do more of the minor stuff. We do the heavy stuff, and you know, we're still very short with our personnel. Like I remember, if I recall, the highway maintenance section at one point had 600 individuals. I think they're down to what, maybe 70?
Highway is 53.
53 individuals in highway now, and so you know if you saw that slide that it had, I think we had what 600 miles of secondary roads. So
Hungen.
wherever you have a road, you're going to have grass on the side, so that needs cutting, that needs maintaining and stuff. But we're very happy because the mayors help us. We have a lot of private businesses that have adopted roadsides. We also have a lot of private contractors that have been contracted by the Guam Visitors Bureau. So I think, and then of course, you know, this Saturday is going to be our island-wide cleanup. So we should have a really good turnout this weekend to spruce up the island a bit.
You know, and as you were speaking, I mean, a couple things came to mind. One, we're going into wet season and everything grows incredibly fast during wet season. It makes it maybe a little bit more of a task to keep up with. But I was also thinking, as you were talking about those good partnerships with the mayors, and so I'll give a small shout out to the mayor of Assen, because I've seen his crew out there working to clear the road, and it's no easy task sometimes with the sword breasts that we have and the other things that we have, that they have to actually go and physically scrape, and it's not just easy bush cutting and some of that easier maintenance. So it's really good to hear of that partnership and those other elements that are also getting involved, because of some of Guam's conditions, I think the sides of our roads take a lot more maintenance than they would maybe somewhere else. And so with that, with the highway division, and you may have mentioned this, but just to clarify so that I've got it, are there federally funded positions within the highway division?
No, the highway divisions is all locally funded. We do have federally funded positions through the FHWA grant. Most of those are engineers and a few finance people, a couple rights-of-way people. But again, in the transition for DPW to take over that federal grant 100%, we're working very closely with our counterparts in Honolulu that oversee the grant. We're working very closely to bring up the employee level within our FHWA division.
And I'm sure we were all very pleased to see the federal funds that you are leveraging. That's so important for us, and that directive to look for every grant across the agencies is excellent to hear. Money is there, grants are there, and certainly it does a lot for our local funds to be able to have as much as possible taken care of those opportunities that are provided for those very reasons. And within that, if I could just also understand, within that highway division, can some of those federal funds, the regular funds that you get, can they be used to purchase equipment as well, or?
For federal funds?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
They do strictly construction. This year, we've got some bids out, and they should be closing shortly. They'll go as far as doing guardrail repair, lane striping, traffic light upgrades. So those bids should be out shortly and awarded. And so you'll see a lot of improvements with guardrails and lane striping.
Oh, great, because that was something I definitely had down is, I'm sure you get the same calls from people, and even myself, especially as I'm getting older, the more that those stripings are there, they're fresher, they're very clear, the more it helps us all to be safer. And so you have said that contract is in progress. So how extensive is the striping going to be that you have in mind?
I can't give you that answer. I know we've allotted, I believe, $2 million for striping. So that's quite a bit, and that has not been awarded. But I could certainly let the committee know once that's awarded. You'll see some work out on the roads very soon.
And is some of that work including the reflectors as well? Or
Oh,
is
yes,
that
yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Senator. Striping, marking, turning arrows, things of that nature.
Excellent. Those things, like I said, I do get a steady set of calls about them, and the more that we're making things safer, of course, the better for everybody. So that's really good progress to be hearing about. And you had mentioned that you're the administrator of that USDOI $5.6 million grant. I believe you're in phase 1, the restroom renovations. How far along are you in that, and when do you expect to move on to phase 2?
We just started, basically. We let out the purchase orders, I'd say within the last 45 days, about 30, 45 days. And I know contractors are out. They're renovating restrooms, basketball courts, village facilities, I think a few gyms, and so on and so forth. So they're out there. Work's getting done.
Excellent. And this is a good time for it. I mean, some of it is that you're utilizing time where we have time that we're not necessarily able to be out and about as much as possible, but we are slowly opening up. So hopefully some of those will be ready more and more as we're getting out there. So is there any kind of rough timeline for this phase 1? Understanding that you just started with the actual hands-on elements.
No, some of them will take us as fast as, my God, one renovation took 30 days. We just paid the individual the other day. I just signed off on that. But I think what's really important, I mean, we're spending so much money, whether it's interior funded or locally funded. We need to get the word out. Our people, when I say our people, everybody who lives on Guam, whoever calls Guam home, we got to take care of these facilities. Because I'll tell you right now, you take a look at what we have and then come back 6 months later, and you might not even recognize it. And I'm not sure if that's just general practice here on Guam, but we're spending good clean money to make this island look good, and the defacing, the vandalism, the destruction, that just has to stop. I think one of the parks, the Chinese park across from DPW, that unfortunately it wasn't on the list for the governor's thing, but I mentioned to the governor that DPW will going forward, will adopt that park. It's right across the street, so Arlene can bring her rake and Jesse can bring his bush cutter, and we'll take care of that. We'll take care of that park. I was there. I visited it there yesterday. The grass probably hasn't been cut in 6 months. And it's a shame because it's a beautiful site for photo ops. You've got the whole Tuman to take a look at, and so hopefully we can get the thing spruced up and keep it clean. And they're doing the restroom on that one also.
Well, and I appreciate that. We're trying to have an aggressive adopt a park program and really build that up. And so we appreciate that you're willing to do that. And you're absolutely right. I think the majority of us, we appreciate these places, we utilize these places, but whatever that small percentage is, it's really challenging it for the rest of us. And so I was really pleased to read that the Lieutenant Governor is looking to develop like a youth awareness program and some awareness programs. Because when you talk to the people at the Department of Parks and Rec, for some of these parks, they're replacing faucet spigots and shower heads almost every other day. Like people are just going in and intentionally breaking them and ruining it for the rest of us. So yes, we have to figure out how to change those behaviors.
Do you have any further questions, Senator Kelly?
Yes, that really covers the last of them. The last part, I'll finish looking into myself, but thank you for that. And it's good to know that we have the rest of that work that you'll be doing when you get to phase 2 as well. So,
Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Kelly. I'd like to also recognize, I just noticed Senator Sabina Paris, I apologize, is also
Afternoon,
joined
Senator.
us.
Good to
Senator
see you.
Therese Terlai, if you have any questions, and followed by Senator Sabina Paris. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Ariola, Director, and to your ASO, Situs Masi, for your
Controller.
control. Oh,
Yes.
thank you very much. If I could begin with, you talked about the overall FY funding and how they're projecting negative, minus 2.4 in the highway fund, and I think about 4 million negative in the TEFF. So have you been advised or directed to adjust your FY20 spending?
We've been working very closely with our analysts at BBMR. We've been instructed to utilize, there are some other lapse funds that we're using, knowing full well that the revenues are down. So, you know, I like I said earlier, I think it's going to be close, working toward the end of the year. So, you know, at this point in time, and we knew it going in too. We have to tighten our belts. But at the same time, I think we're certainly not going to rely on full CARES funding because it's just not enough. It's 800,000. While it does help, it's not going to be enough to carry us through the end of the fiscal year. So we've already started the belt tightening.
All right. And when you say you're using lapses, do you mean your own agency's lapses?
Internal.
Okay.
Internal. Yes.
And then you said earlier you were expecting some COVID money and FEMA also reimbursements, I guess. Do you have that?
That would be from CARES, and then we're also looking to see what FEMA will cover as well.
Right. Unsure yet for FY20.
Right.
Okay. And have you been advised to adjust your FY21 budget that was submitted, because that was submitted early
Right.
before this pandemic?
We were informed by BBMR that there are going to be adjustments to our budgets. We're just going to assume the worst case scenario that it'll be adjusted downward. To what extent, I don't know. But we work very closely with BBMR. They don't just give us a number. We work closely with them. We talk about it. What can you live with going forward? And especially, as I mentioned, it's almost like we have a COVID-19 division now at DPW, because we're literally borrowing from highway, building maintenance, and even administration. So, that's a hurt on DPW. So, we're hoping that going forward, all of that gets taken into account as well.
Oh, yeah, I want to thank all your employees for their doing this. I know that they were put on right in the front, airport duty, other duty, and all over the island. Like you said, all the agencies, they had to come in and assist. So
Right.
I very much appreciate that. DPW has always been the government calls on DPW and when things have never happened to us before and we need to get them done. And I
Yeah, they
appreciate
just get
that
it done. And
very much.
they
yes.
literally are frontline employees,
Yes.
a good number of them.
All right. And I appreciated your presentation, by the way. I thought it was very organized and
Thank you.
easy to follow. Yeah, and you answered all my questions, but if I could just ask you a couple more.
Sure, sure,
Just
yeah.
so when you put out the road repair projects very concisely, I appreciate that. And you said that in FY20 you received 3.1 million, and then you put out for the other years you received these other amounts. Are there any balances from the prior years for road repairs?
For the road repair?
Yes.
I think the slide was up there. But we do have balances that we carry over.
Okay, so you're continuing to use
that's
those
why
for-
I mentioned, pardon me, that's why I mentioned to Senator Pito, those that we moved, we just moved from this year to that year, but they'll get done
Okay.
once
and
they're
then-
on the list.
All
Because they've
right.
already been rated.
Okay, and so then in the FY20 budget law, they put out specifically 2.78 million for road repairs, right, and resurfacing, and then they didn't put in a specific amount, but they said the balance of the Guam Highway Fund as of September 30, 2019. Do you know what you received for that,
Not
or if
yet,
any?
until after the audit. Until the audit's done.
Oh, I was just informed that there's an audit going, so that'll tell us exactly what's left over from 2019.
The audit that's forthcoming. So far you haven't used any of that?
No.
Okay. And then there's another provision in the Budget Act for 2020 that said, all funds in excess of the adopted revenue levels are hereby appropriated to DPW for flood mitigation measures and improvement of roadways, highways, roads, or streets. Have you received any of that money?
I believe we may have used it for one project. I'm trying to remember. It might have been the project down in Mauricio for flooding, if I remember correctly.
All right, if you could clarify after the hearing,
Okay.
if it's per this appropriation, yeah, or some other lapses.
Will do, Senator.
All right, thanks. And then, so then back to your current road projects. You completed 11, and I see that, and then you've been submitting a monthly list, kind of a status of the road resurfacing projects. So on the most recent list, I think it was May, there were 26 projects, and this is what the other Senator Tulare was talking about earlier. There were projects that were specifically listed as removed from list per management and reassessment. And it doesn't say that they're put on again, or, those
separate
were
list,
level
yeah.
3 already, and they said removed. And so, and then it says on that same list that, Malolo Route 4 was added on, and some
Right.
other projects were added on. So when you do these reassessments, or you're the management, I'm assuming, that's removing these from the list, what is the mayor's role in that?
We discuss this with all the mayors. We do site visits. They let us know where the real peligro roads are, And like I said, we have a certain rating system, and a lot of it is based, of course, on traffic. A lot of it is based on the possibility of complete road collapse, which we had to do, not so much a road, but just certain hillsides in Santa Rita that we're kind of shoring up. So we went and we did that. So it really depends on the condition of the road and the amount of traffic that goes through it, and where that artery is. Because if it's highly traveled and say if we close it down, how's it going to impact, especially the safety and the health of the residents? Then we really have to take action for that. And that's one of the reasons why, the Malolo Road from Talafofo Bay to Malolo, it's a huge stretch. It costs a lot of money, but there's 2 areas there that if that fails, that whole road is finished.
Right,
And
and I'm very grateful for your work on that road. I think that the people of the South have been asking for that for the longest time, and when they were, contemplating putting the landfill there, that was supposed to be one of the things
Right.
taken care of course.
Right.
And it's very dangerous, so I want to thank you for the work that you've done on resurfacing that. I think like you said, if the federal highway is going to come in and restructure it, That's good too, but the immediate repair was very good. I just want to know what happens when you readjust the priorities of the roads that have already been, these priorities were already established by the mayors and DPW together, but now I see you're doing some adjustment to this. And I just want to, get some assurance that the mayors are actively involved in that, and it's not going to turn into a, political preference type of reprioritizing.
Right. We certainly try to make it balanced. And in the beginning, it was basically 2 roads per mayor. And then on top of that, it was also the linear feet. Because what if, and also the size of the village. Like there's some villages where the road the roads are fine. And they don't even have a road to pave, but at least leading to it, we can take care of that. So we really try to find a balance with all the mayors.
All right, and then so if out of the 3.1 that you said you were allocated in FY20 for roads, you've spent 1.7, and I heard you say earlier to my colleague that you don't think you can spend the rest by the end of this fiscal year, which is September, and so you might need to roll that over?
Yeah, right, there's just a couple months left over. The Malolo is going to take a couple months. It really depends also on the availability of our contractor.
All right, so
if he were available, if the contractor were available every day of the week between now and September, we'll probably finish it up. But I doubt if that's the case.
all right, yeah, I guess that is concern, right? Because the money's there, I guess, it's supposed to be there for road repair, and if we're not able to complete them, that's an issue. Should we be using that money elsewhere? I hope not. We really
Right.
want these roads repaired.
Yes.
So if there's any other option that you come up with to make that road repair all happen during FY21. So what do you have planned? Because I only see 2 on the May list that are, it says pending resurfacing, and that's the Maimai Road in Chalampago and Jose Cruz Street in Talafofo. The rest says they're either completed and pending restriping, or they say that they've been removed. 26 were removed from the list per
I think
management.
we still have Manguilo. There's a road in Manguilo that we have to take care of as well. There's a couple roads up in Jigo that we're looking at. And a lot of it is based on the amount of money it's going to cost to repave it. And working within our budget. But no, there's still some roads that we have to do. Agate is one of them. We got to go back to Agate. Agate's got a number of roads that we're going to take
All
care
right,
of.
well, like I said, those aren't on the list of the May, like as being already pending in your priority
Right.
list. So I'm just wondering how they get moved up or how they get restructured.
I think based on, we'll see based on how much we spend for this Malolo Road, that'll really tell us what we have left and then where we can go after from that.
All right.
And then also the leftover from 19.
Are there any other Route 4 improvements that you are planning?
Route,
4, down south? From,
that Malolo Road would be the only one right now.
okay,
Yes, ma'am. And plus also on the federal side, we're in the bid process right now to reconstruct and replace the Ahadzan Bridge down right in between Inarajan and Maleso.
okay. And the ownership issues are resolved?
Resolved. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
great. What about who is in charge of doing quality control after GWA or any other agency or contractor comes in and does work on the road?
That's a very good question, Senator. We've been in conversations, myself and Miguel Berdalio, the GM, and our chief engineer. We've been in numerous conversations. As a matter of fact, we have an MOA that I'm still looking at. They've already signed it. I'm right at the verge of signing. I just want to make sure that it's clean on our side. But they know full well their responsibilities in keeping our roads whole after they've been cut up for water leaks, sewer leaks, and the like. They also know that there's a number of roads that I think we identified close to 100 road repairs that were done not up to standard. And so we're working with them to try to get them redone. Basically, we're going to reopen it. And this is the standard that we've set, you know, base course, concrete, and some asphalt. And similar to what they did at along Route 8 about 2 years ago, that was a federally funded project where they did major cutouts, and they poured in concrete and then paved it, and it's almost seamless. And that's really the way the road repair should be for all kinds of road cut-ins, whether it be by Guam Waterworks or even the telecom industry. So we are in very close contact with Miguel Berdalio. He's you know, it's just a matter of getting the right working relationship, signing the MOA, and then following up, because that's also on us. We haven't been doing our due diligence to go out there and make sure that when they repair it, you know, there's always the initial repair. That's just to get the traffic going. But they're, by and large, they're supposed to come back and do it for basically a permanent repair.
Right. Yeah, I do agree. It's on DPW also to enforce
Right.
that, to follow up. I'm surprised you needed an MOA as opposed to just, you know, forcing them to do it. But you're saying there were 100 roads that were not done to standard that have to be redone? 100?
I'd say about 100. That's the number that stays in my mind. About not roads, but 100
patches.
cutouts,
Yes,
repairs.
yes. Okay.
They
well,
could be as small as this table. They could be as long as 2 lanes.
Well, we're driving on them, so I don't doubt
Exactly.
that there are that many, but I'm just,
There's a lot.
I'm just in disbelief that they were allowed to get that, you know, that
That far.
they were allowed to go that far, yes. And so then my final question is just on the federal highway projects that you've listed here as anticipating to be done in FY21. You listed Route 14, Challenge San Antonio, Route 14B, Ipaw Road, Route 3 completion, Route 1, Marine Drive repaving, select bridges, upgrading traffic. This is all on Marine Drive, right? The
For the
guardrail,
most part.
road striping, or just miscellaneous?
No,
Okay.
they're all over the island on major routes.
Okay, and so these priorities were, I've heard these before. Weren't these listed as to be done in FY20? Some of these?
Route 3 is already being done, and that's up for completion. The Route 1 Marine Drive repaving, that should start this year.
You mean FY20, right?
It might start before September.
Okay.
We hope also the bridge, the Hodson Bridge that I just talked about. Route 14 Challenge San Antonio, we'll put that out for rebid again because we had some issues with the contractors and our paving specs. Route 14B, the Ipaw Road, that might have to be delayed until next year, if not 2 years.
Why is that? Why?
I think it's funding.
Funding?
Yes, federal
By
funding.
federal highways?
Right.
Okay, so the list here is, it says you're projecting 14.6, so you're thinking you might overspend on some of the projects and not be able to complete all of these with 14.6.
No, there's a lot of, some of the, like the Challenge San Antonio, that's fully funded already from, I believe, FY19, I believe.
Yeah, that's what
So a lot
my
of them are
question is.
carryovers.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand why we've heard this from FY19, FY20, and now we're hearing them again to be the projected what we're going to complete during FY21, and I don't understand, you know.
Well, Senator, we put it out for bid 3 times.
Okay.
And let me see, I'm trying to remember. We put it out for bid 3 times, and I don't think we had any takers all 3 times.
Then what happens to the money from, you know, if we were trying to do it in FY20, we didn't get it done, what happens to that money? It just rolls over federal highways?
It just rolls over.
Do we get additional money, or are they waiting for you to complete these projects before?
What there is, it's called the Guam Transportation Plan.
Right,
Yeah, and the GTIP.
right.
And so that's a plan that's a 4 or 5 year plan for how we're going to spend the federal funds. And all these projects, in addition to more projects, are all inside that plan.
Right.
And so depending when you break ground with it or when the design is done, that's when you get it fully funded. And so like Challenge San Antonio, that's been fully funded for the last 2 years, I believe, if not 3. We just haven't had any takers. So we have to keep going back to the drawing board and talking to these, remember, we're competing with the military inside.
Yes.
Yeah, I went to one, it was a big military construction symposium down at the Hyatt several months ago. And, you know, we did our presentation. We have this project is probably a $15 million project. E-Power Road is maybe a $12 million project. A bridge here is a $6 million project. And the military starts with 35 million. So, you know, we're kind of small, but we're still good for some of the smaller contractors to keep them going.
All right, and so are these the top priorities on the GTIP right now?
Yes, they are.
All right, and you don't propose reprioritizing any because of changed circumstances?
No, I think, you know, and part of it really is just working with the contractors to get them to bid on these things. And I think like Marine Drive, the repaving, that's going to start really soon. And that's from the old Pizza Hut in Tamuning, the old Camp Watkins Road, all the way to Airport Road. Complete 7-lane repaving.
All right, and you believe that's still the priority versus,
Yeah, the road has really degraded there.
other roads? Okay, and I know that some of these roads you're repaving in order to prevent having to do the more major reconstruction if you
Right.
can salvage it right now.
Right.
Okay, so, yeah, thank you again for your work and to all of your team. Thank you very much. But,
Appreciate it.
yeah, and if you could also send us just again the listing of the roads that are being reprioritized. I would like
village?
that in
Right.
writing so
Got
that
that.
we can, when the mayors also call us, or villagers, when they ask me, I always respond, whatever you see being paved right now was either designated by the mayors as the priority for that village, and, you know, of course, in working in conjunction with DPW. So I want to know whether they're paving roads that are not the priority of the village mayors, so.
Of course.
Thank you. All right, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
then.
Senator.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr.
it.
Chair.
Thank you, Senator Reese. Senator Sabina, do you have any questions, ma'am?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair. Thank you. And welcome, Vince and Arlene. And
Yes, thank you. Thank you,
for
Senator.
all your
Good to be
hard
here.
work. So yeah, just a couple questions. You know, first of all, if you can just showcase or highlight how you were able to reduce your operational cost. On your testimony, you reduced it by over almost $400,000. And what was that attributed to?
A lot of the reductions, you know, when they give you, when we receive our budget allocation from BBMR, you know, as in all budgets, we focus on our labor costs. As I mentioned, our labor costs are at 73%, and so when you take into account benefits, increases in pay and things of that nature. It kind of eats into whatever other allocations are available, and so sometimes it's almost like a force reduction, but we still look very closely at what the department needs, and we make sure that the needs of the department are always kept. Could we use an additional funding for auto parts, heavy equipment, machinery parts, and stuff like that? Absolutely. You know, the machinery and the vehicles, they're always going down because that's just the nature of our business, and it's hard to keep up. There's been the school of thought about getting them all repaired with a private contract. We've looked at the numbers. Internally, doing it internally is much cheaper. The problem is just getting the parts, and that's our procurement issues, which I talked about earlier.
Okay, that actually leads me to my other question. So I am working on a bill to actually transition government of Guam to electric vehicles, which has far less maintenance. And so this is, you know, I hope is a long-term goal for our government. So it would reduce the cost overall, I guess, in the long term. So currently, how much do you spend on maintenance?
What's the budget for TM? About 5 mil?
500,000.
About 500,000.
Yeah.
About 500,000.
For buses and all.
And that's just on direct maintenance of vehicles. And buses are also that's also a different category.
Okay.
But I think if you're looking at saving fuel, I mean, certainly we could start with not just electric, but you could start with the hybrids as well. Hybrids I've heard stories of hybrids. My son has a hybrid, his fiance has a hybrid. They gas at $25 every, 2 or 3 weeks. That's crazy. That's crazy good.
Yeah. And so also the other thing is perhaps training employees to maintain vehicles, electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles. Have you ever estimated a cost of doing any type of transition towards more of the, less fuel dependent cars?
Senator, not exactly with regard to I'm not sure if you're talking about like passenger type vehicles, but there was a proposal by GPA. We just started some discussions on it about piloting some electric school buses, and then I believe the holidays came, and then COVID came, and so we kind of have to resurrect that and see because I think it was a pilot that they would sponsor. So I hope that's still available. We just have to talk to them about it.
Okay, great. So I'm sure you probably heard about the Trump ban on H-2B visas just the other day. Have you anticipated any increase in expenditures or perhaps longer timelines to the current budget request?
I'm sorry again?
So with the H-2B visa ban that Trump just instituted a couple of days ago, do you foresee any impacts to expenditures or timelines?
I think, Senator, especially on the construction side, the federal roadway construction side, huge impacts of H-2B workers and the military construction inside the fence. Again, we're competing with huge multi-million-dollar projects in there. 50 million, 75 million, 100 million here and there. And when you look at the economies of scale, if you're a contractor, you look at a smaller project outside for 10, 15 million dollars, it's kind of iffy. And then you add to that the shortage of labor on the H-2B side. So that clearly that brings the prices up.
Regarding utility costs, so in the budget there is a 5% increase.
Yes, ma'am.
That's mostly for power, is that correct?
Mostly power and water.
Yeah. And do you see, for instance, with the COVID, is that going to decrease with operations not being utilized?
Yeah. Well, this is pre-COVID. The numbers here are pre-COVID. I don't have the numbers from with me from say the billing from March, April, May, but I have to imagine because we were at work at home status with the exception of the individuals out in the field. I would have to imagine that our utilities have gone down because of that. But we're back in the office, so it should return back to normal.
And are you aware of any grants regarding, like, for instance, installation of solar panels that can help reduce these costs?
We just had some solar panels installed last year on the administrative side, and that was from a federal grant. And we did see some significant savings. So, like I mentioned earlier, we do have a directive from the government: get out there and find and look for all kinds of grants that will help assist this government in saving money. So, we do have a couple grant writers, one that we just brought on board, so he's really helping us with issues like that.
Okay. And do you expect any FEMA reimbursement for overtime costs?
On FEMA, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to try to use the best of both worlds, both CARES funding and FEMA funding. And FEMA will pay for a number of items, no different than any other type of major disaster or catastrophe, and in this instance, I think with COVID-19, we do have some expenses that we can sway toward FEMA.
Okay. Also, I'm aware that with some developments, there's conditional permits based on, for instance, if they construct roads. How closely do you work with I guess, I forget if it's Department of Land Management or whichever agency approves a project. Are you involved in the ensuring that those roads are done to specs for these development projects?
Which roads specifically?
I don't have a specific project, but in general, when some of these developments receive conditional permits, sometimes they're based on whether they actually construct a road for the community. So are you involved in these conditional permit situations?
We're involved in every single permit that's done, with the exception of anything inside the base. We have no jurisdiction there, but anything outside the base, we permit everything. And so we have our inspectors out there for both road construction, house construction, building construction, demolition, grading, things of that nature. And while we can't have everybody everywhere, a lot of it also is we do our job from public input, and of course things like this. We get a lot of we get a lot of assistance from the public, taking pictures, showing us these different projects that are out there, and to take a look at them. So we basically send our inspectors out there. Sometimes we'll issue a notice of violation. Sometimes it's heated. Sometimes it's not. And we just refer it to the Attorney General's office.
Do you have a hotline?
Do we have a hotline? I don't believe we do. That's a very good question.
It goes to your number.
But I will certainly look at that. We don't have a hotline. It's basically the permit center or my office.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Vince, and thank you to all your team for all the hard work during this pandemic.
Yes, thank you so much, Senator.
And it's great to see that you guys are role model as team players in the
It's
government.
been an adventure.
Okay, this is Masi.
This is Masi.
Thank you, my colleagues. Thank you, my colleagues, and the panel for answering the questions. This committee will conclude the budget hearing with the Department of Public Works on Bill 282-35 LS. The committee will continue to receive testimony. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. @gmail.com. Si Jus Masi for your attendance and participate in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. The budget hearing on Bill 282-35 LS relative to the Department of Public Works is now adjourned at 4:51. Thank you very much, and you all have a nice day.